So let's switch gears then to the other big change that you're making. You've alluded to it. Introducing the social and economic mobility classification is pulling a concept that has actually gained steam in higher education over the last several years, but you're pulling it into the mainstream, I think, now by this action. Whereas policy and regulation have historically focused much more around inputs, less on student outcomes, this puts the spotlight on at least a particular kind of outcome, right? It has a point of view of that. What are the downstream effects that you see coming from this change of really elevating this into the conversation? And what will cause institutions to make those changes, in your view, that you're hoping to see?
Yeah, I think we're really hoping that this new classification, which we had been calling sort of a social and economic mobility classification, we sharpened it a little bit to better describe the very particular things that we are measuring, which are access and earnings. Social and
Mm-hmm.
economic mobility can connote a lot of things,
Sure,
and
and
we
it
just
can
want
be
to be a
zero
little bit.
sum. It can be positive, right? Sure. Yep.
No, and we're excited by that description because I think it calls into clear focus exactly what we are trying to do. We're hoping that this will be picked up and used by all sorts of third parties for many, many reasons. But let me just highlight three of them. We've talked about one of them. The funding community, especially of research funding, has been asking for this sort of thing, for some ability to be able to really understand um, who are our institutions in sort of a broader way that we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars to, and are there ways that we can identify the institutions that are really educating the students, from America, from the states, from the communities, and then how well are those students doing afterwards? I think the funding agencies are quite likely to pick this up. Second, there's a set of folks that are thinking about accountability. So think accreditors, for instance, right? I mean, they really, I think, could use a set of tools to be able to understand where do the institutions sit in the broader landscape, and then how well are those institutions doing it at the missions they have. And there's no question that sort of educating the population and then evaluating how well they're doing at getting jobs and on earnings is incredibly important for those sorts of folks. And so we've had several conversations with the accreditors, and I think they're ready to sort of use this in their toolbox of using institutions. And then third, I think there are a whole set of state agencies that we're really excited to go talk to. So, I mean, state after state has been using some version of performance funding, in their allocations, and or would like to think about things like ROI. Now, this is not exactly an ROI calculation, but it does do some work in trying to understand how well institutions are doing at producing graduates with earnings. So I think that this will hopefully be a tool that we're going to be able to have be picked up by several states. And we've had a few that have expressed some interest in talking to us, and we're out there. As soon as this thing comes out, I think we will spend a lot of time thinking about the states.